Hi, this is Mark Reinhardt for God Consent Podcast, and I wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind a lot lately. The subject of why people purchase consumer products with money they don't have that they don't really need. Now, George Carlin would argue that people are stupid. While to a certain degree that may slightly be true, I have another add-on to that seems to me, in my opinion, to be more relevant as a result. I like to call this Consumerist Pavlovian theory. Now, what is Pavlovian theory and how did that develop? Well, first, from about.com, the concept of classical conditioning is studied by every entry-level psychology student, so it may be surprising to learn that the man who noted this phenomenon was not a psychologist at all. Ivan Pavlov is a physiologist, so he was working with a bunch of dogs, studying the digestive system. Continuing on, in 1904, he won the Nobel Prize for his work studying digestive processes. He used canine subjects, and he would notice that would begin to salivate whenever an assistant entered the room with food. I'm basically summarizing and paraphrasing what I'm reading. In his digestive research, Pavlov and his assistants would introduce a variety of edible and non-edible items to measure the saliva production that the items produced. Saliva, he noted, is a reflexive process. It occurs automatically in response to specific stimulus and is not under conscious control. However, Pavlov noted that the dogs would often begin salivating in absence of food and smell. He quickly realized that this salivary response was not due to an automatic physiological process. So, how did it develop? Once again, I'm using about.com. It's kind of like Wikipedia, only it has a little more sources to it. The development of classical conditioning theory. Based on his observations, Pavlov suggested that saliva was a learned response. The dogs were responding in the sight of the research assistant's white lab coats, which the animals had come to associate with the presentation of food. Unlike the salivary response to the presentation of food, which is an unconditioned reflex, salivating to the expectation of food is a conditioned reflex. Pavlov then focused on investigating how these conditioned responses are learned or acquired. In a series of experiments, Pavlov set to provoke a conditioned response to previously neutral stimulus. So he used a metronome. And the dogs would then associate the ticking of the metronome with food. So we're wondering, how exactly does that apply to credit cards and the purchase of consumer products? Well, now the device used for mass classical conditioning on a social psychological level is television. Corporations can purchase the airtime, and in some instances have been caught using subliminal messaging and or flashing lights as commercials. Now, if you use a mass communication device like television, you can program anybody to keep buying and buying things on credit. Which means, to quote Don Harold of YouTube, people are in debt above their eyeballs. Now, with that notice of basically classical conditioning on a mass level, the question then comes to what do we do in regards to television? Now, realistically, I am a free market kind of guy, meaning there are lots of things that the free market can do to improve the quality of life economically. One thing that it has proven to be a market failure on is the use of media. Now, which then comes to how do we improve our mass communication system that we already have? I mean, what careful guidelines need to be in place? I will touch on that a little bit later, but basically, in my opinion, I believe television is used as a neutral, classical conditioned stimulus to program people to purchase consumer products that aren't needed with money that's not there. Now, links are in the sidebar over there, mentioning anything you would like about Pavlovian theory. I will also put FCC rules and regulations, even though they aren't really followed, regarding subliminal messaging and the use of flashing hypnotic lights, which I usually base the idea of the flashing hypnotic lights primarily off of the hypnotizing effect of television. Now, this has been Mark Reinhardt for Got Consent Podcast. Peace out.